Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. I thought what I would do today is a little demonstration on choosing a background support for colored pencil. Now I must apologize for the noise in the background. It's probably about, 37, 38 degrees outside with the humidity and air conditioners on. It's a little warm. So what I've got here is some paper. I've got 3 different types. This is all Stonehenge paper, which is amazing paper for colored pencil in different colors. And then I have a sheet of black Canson paper, and then I have a piece of suede board. Okay, now what I do is I thought I would show you just a couple of different pencils and how the colors actually show up depending on your background, because I'm getting a lot of questions on what color background should I use, and that's something I can't answer. It all depends on what you're drawing, and you have to keep in mind that whatever color for colored pencil you put on a toned paper, it's going to be different, so you need to know some color theory. So if I go here to this sheet here, and I'm using the Derwent Color Soft pencils, and if I just go here and just create a swatch, and this is something you should be doing anytime you buy a new product with drawing. You should be making color swatches like this, just so you know what the product can do. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the exact same step on all these different colors of paper. I'm not worried about a value scale. All I'm doing is 2 layers of colored pencil, because it will still be transparent, and I want to show you what the colors look like when I'm finished. And when you do these color swatches, you have to make sure that each one is done exactly the same. Now, colored pencil, depending on which brand you have, some are opaque, some are transparent, some are semi-transparent. The way that I see it, the more layers of colored pencil you put on there, the more opaque it's going to be, to the point where you're not going to be able to see the paper anymore. Okay, but everybody works differently, and the only way that you can really determine what paper you should use is what paper you like. Okay, just because I like Stonehenge paper for colored pencil doesn't necessarily mean that's what you should use. I myself, with the Color Soft pencils, I like Stonehenge paper. Okay, so you can see the different blues, the exact same pencil, but the blues are different. And the reason the blues are different is because the color of the paper is different. Okay, so I would start off with a white, then it goes to a creamy white, like almost like an ivory, then kind of like a rosy white, and then a light brown, and then a gray. So you can see the blues are all different. At the same time, if I was to turn around and work this colored pencil on black, that also looks different. Okay, I don't even know if you can even see that. You probably can't even see that. Right here, see? Okay, and then on suede board, same thing. Okay? It's very, very different. There we go. Very different. So you can see why, asking the question of what color paper should I use, it's not as easy as just saying use this. Okay, it all depends on what you're working on. To keep it safe, just use white. Okay, but in using just white paper to do any type of design, you are often faced with working on stark white paper. Personally, myself, I like working on some tone paper, and usually something very neutral. I would say that even any of these, or even this, when you get to something too dark, that will affect your color a little bit too much. Okay, so you look down like this, and even this is a little bit dark. Then you come down here. This has a little bit too much red in it. Now, if you're doing something with colored pencil that's very, very warm, then you can use that. You know, for your design is primarily in reds and oranges and yellows. But if you take a rosy colored paper and you put a green colored pencil on it, well, we all know what happens when we get green and red together. Okay, that's why you need to know a little bit of color theory. All right, so taking just basically just a white or an off-white is usually your best bet for colored pencil. And then once you start really working with the colored pencil, you've created all your swatches and stuff, then you can practice on what your particular pencils look like on the paper. Okay, so let me just put this back like so. All right, and then the black. So that was with pale blue. Now, if I turn around and I take, oh, let's say, let me, where's my, I had a green. I'm just going to grab all my pencils here. Let me grab this one here. I'm not a fan of green. This is just dark green. So if I turn around with this and I do another swatch. Now, when I say swatches, ideally in an art journal, because that way you'll never lose it, is for every pencil you have, you create a box and then you write down next to it what it is, and then you would make a swatch for the brand. So maybe on the first page you would just put, you know, Derwent Color Soft, and you would do all of this. Okay, so this is dark green, and you're just basically just making hatching lines going across. Okay, then you would just write dark green. And I'm going to do the same thing with the rest of the paper, doing 2 layers. And I'm working fairly quickly. I've done this so many times. Just make sure that your application is even. And the darker the paper is, the less intense the color is. It becomes really muted. Whoops. There we go. And then the black, which is almost invisible. Okay. So now you can see the differences now with the type of green. So the darker the paper, the darker the green, but as well, the less intense they are. Okay, now if I turn around and take a color that will mix between both blue and green, and I can take yellow, because I can take yellow and blue, which will make green, and yellow and green, which make a yellow green, just to show you the, oops, the transparencies. And again, this is why you need to know color mixing. So I will take, what is this? This is acid yellow. And I'm going to sharpen, and usually I prefer using my electric pencil sharpener, but with the air conditioner going, plus that, it's going to get a little loud. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these swatches over like this, and I'm going to go in between. Now this I'm working a little bit slower, probably about 3 or 4 layers. And you must work with a sharp pencil for this. And this will show you how you create additional layers using your pencils. Okay, so there's one. Okay, and I'll repeat the same thing going across. Let me just make it easy and just do them one at a time like this. Okay. And I like doing this probably about 4 times. Now as well, the harder you push, the more you burnish, which means you're fusing the layers together. Where that's for another video. Right now I just want to talk about the papers and how they affect the colors that you use. Now these papers are pretty neutral, but when you get into really, really bright papers and that, you have to be very, very careful. Now this one here, see, it's a lot darker. The colors are less intense. It really tones it down. It does darken it, and it tones it down. And I'm just going to turn my pencil so I get to a sharp side. If you use a dull pencil, all you're doing is just covering the top of the paper, and you're not actually getting any pigment inside the little nooks and crannies of the paper. And that's what Stonehenge paper has. It has all these little nooks and crannies. The yellow's quite lovely. Now, I am not a fan of Canson paper. That doesn't mean it's bad. I'm just not a fan of it. I find that it just doesn't take the amount of pigment that I like to put on paper. Okay, I'm not a fan of this paper, but I just want to show it to you. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's just I personally prefer not to use it. Okay, so with the black, when I was going across, I wasn't able to get much pigment on this side because it's already full with the green and then the blue. All I was able to do was just get some nice yellow in between the two other swatches. So you can see the differences here. Okay, with the swatches that I did. So you can see that the darker the paper, the darker the color. Okay, and also depending on how dark the paper is and what color the paper is, it'll also tone down your color. So if I compare these two, they are very different color swatches because this is white and this is gray. The gray is actually showing through. Okay, same thing as these two. They're much darker because the color underneath is making everything darker. Okay, so that's just to give you a little idea on when you're picking the colors of your paper. Make sure that you have enough color theory behind you to know what happens when you layer colors. They create new colors. You have to be able to, you have to know that information. Okay, because the paper that you use, depending on the colors you layer, will be directly they'll be directly affected as to this and the colors of the pencil that you use. So if you're just starting out, stick with white. Okay? But even saying just stick with white paper, you're still going to need to know what happens when you mix blue and yellow. What color do you get? What happens when you mix green and yellow? What do you get? What happens when you mix green and red? What do you get? You need to know all this information because colored pencil, okay, is more of a transparent medium as opposed to, let's say, an opaque oil or an opaque acrylic. Okay, and the only way that you can really appreciate what colored pencils can do for you is to create little color swatches like this, little swatches. And you know what you can do is write down here that I used pale blue with what? Dark green, and then this was acid yellow. And myself, I know it's Stonehenge paper, but you can put Stonehenge paper. Okay, but I suggest doing this in a journal if possible, so you can keep everything together. If you don't have, like I've got one of my color mixing journals is made of TerraSkin, and colored pencil on TerraSkin, I don't particularly like it. So I would just take these swatches and just tape them into my color mixing journal. That way all my color mixes are all in one place. Okay, so there you go. Just to give you an idea of little practice exercises that you can do with your colored pencil on different colors of paper. Thanks for watching.